Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Binge on Self-Love podcast. My name is Anna, but you can call me Anshi, and I'm your host. Today, I am bringing you a very special interview with an amazing guest. We've talked about how to navigate certain situations in regards to food and how to deal with comments from people, how to find balance on social media. And she also gave us some tips on how to change your mindset from feeling ungrateful and really nitpicking every single part of your body to start feeling grateful for what you have and what your body allows you to do. So I'm so excited to welcome today's guest. And now, without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Okay, so today I am joined by a very special guest, Taylor Binney. Taylor is a content creator. She is a founder of a fitness and nutrition coaching app called Ignite with Taylor, where she's helping people find balance with food, with themselves, with their bodies, with movement. And Taylor is also a proud cat mom of two beautiful cats, may I say. And I'm so excited to welcome Taylor to the Binge on Self-Love podcast.
Thank you. Hello, I'm happy to be here as well.
Thank you so much. So, first and foremost, Taylor, how are you? How are you feeling? How's life?
I'm good. It is really sunny at the moment, so I feel like that's definitely boosted my mood a little bit. But yeah, in general, I feel like everything's good at the moment.
Good, good. I'm so happy to hear that. Okay, so thank you so much for joining today. You are, I would say, pretty open with sharing your journey with your eating disorder, with your body image on social media. And I believe that it's amazing that one, you've been able to overcome it, but also that you've been able to share it with other people because I believe that it can help so many people, encourage so many people that it's possible to recover from it. And I would like to learn a little bit more about how it was for you, how it started. What do you feel were the main reasons why you've got it into it in the first place, and what's your journey been like?
We're going in the deep end.
Yes. Yeah, we're
that's,
going straight in.
that's
I'm sorry.
a big question for a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Okay, let me try and summarize. So I struggled with my relationship with food. I think from around the age of 12 to 13. Um, Probably, I would say even up until now, because I don't feel like once you've struggled with your relationship with food, I feel like it's kind of the same as if you've had an addiction to something. So say for this kind of a way that I explain it to people, if you struggle with alcohol, you may recover from being an alcoholic, but you're still going to struggle in certain situations, like if all your friends invite you down to the pub, because you're in that environment with something that you struggled with. And I think an eating disorder is really overlooked because where if you had a friend who had struggled with alcohol, you probably wouldn't invite them to the pub. But if you have a friend who struggled with their relationship with food, you have to eat to function, to live. You don't have to drink alcohol. You are going to be going to restaurants. You are going to be in social situations. Even when the sun comes out, people are going to invite you to barbecues. And people aren't necessarily going to realise that, oh, it's not just, oh, you used to struggle with food. It's always going to be somewhere there that you are still managing to a certain level. And you're constantly put in those situations where the thing that you were addicted to, essentially, you're up against it all the time. So I would say when I was really, really struggling, it was probably from the age of 12 to about 23. I'm 30 now. So I feel like it's a while ago that I would say I recovered. But again, I say I'm still managing my relationship with food even to this point now. So that's kind of the timeline of things with my eating disorder.
Hmm. And it's really interesting that I think that a lot of people don't really realize that it's not like you recover and now you're done, and from now on you never think about food ever again, and it's more of like an ongoing process that at certain situations you still maybe struggle a little bit and you have to use some things that you've learned along the way to help yourself. And I think that it's really important to also talk about these things as well. And when you've mentioned that you were actually really young when you started to struggle with it, do you think that at that time maybe also like the either social media or like the unrealistic beauty standards maybe also played a role in it, or how do you feel about that?
I'm not 100% sure. I can't say for 100% why it started, but I do know that my relationship with food was a direct link to my self-worth. I think part of it was I felt a lack of control in my life at the time. And that was a really easy thing, even at 12 years old. That was probably the one thing I had control over. You don't
Mm.
have a lot of control over other things when you're that age.
Yeah.
Everything's sort of decided for you.
Right.
So I think it was a bit of a control thing. But then I think it definitely, as I continued on with it into my teenage years and early 20s, it was definitely a lack of self-worth that I didn't didn't think a lot of myself. I
Mm.
didn't think I was worthy of a lot. So I was constantly punishing myself for things that other people had done to me or the way other people had made me feel. Even if I'd gone through a breakup or something, really sadly, I would think, right, okay, well, I'm not going to eat now, and
Mm.
I'm gonna get really thin, and
Right.
then they'll realize they've hurt me, and it's like,
Right.
why
Yeah.
did I think punishing myself, restricting myself, and making myself unwell is going to make that person realize that they've hurt me? That's
Right.
not, no.
Yeah.
But I think that, yeah, that was a lot of the stuff that went through my mind. So that kind of leads me into the way that I recovered was very much focusing on positive affirmations, rewriting the thoughts that I was having, and really questioning myself, like I've just said, why are you doing that to yourself? Like,
Right.
why are you punishing yourself for the way that someone else has made you feel? And sort of rewriting those thoughts as they come in and, saying a positive affirmation to replace that not very nice thought. Um, and just ask myself, why are you being so unkind to yourself? It's not necessary.
Right. Right. Yeah. I'm so sorry that you had to go through this, especially at this very young age. And would you say that you've mentioned that you started your recovery around 23? Do you believe that there was like anything that kind of changed for you, that you realized that now it was the right time to start recovering from it? Or was the eating disorder until that point, like that you felt like I have to change, that I cannot go like that forever? Or what do you think was it for you?
I think that, so when I was around sort of 18, 19, that's when it hit its absolute worst. I was really, really abusing my body. I went really long periods without food. I had a real scare where I was very, very, very unwell. I then sort of managed it a little bit better from that point on, because that was quite scary. But I still wasn't eating enough. I still wasn't really looking after myself. And I came out of a really bad relationship at about 23, and I moved into a little apartment by myself. And I was so sad. I was just sad all the time. I'd wake up sad. I would go to work sad, and I would come home sad. And it was like this big dark cloud over me. And I read the book, The Secret. I don't know if
Hmm.
you've heard of that book.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is great. And then I started seeing like little signs. I kept seeing rainbows, which was really quite, I felt at the time, quite significant, because you don't often see a rainbow.
Right.
And I kept seeing repeated numbers. And I was thinking, what does that mean? And then I saw someone talking about angel numbers. And I basically started looking more into it and learning about the law of attraction, and starting to follow certain people on social media that were really into the law of attraction, and started to
Hmm.
kind of learn about what it was. And then I also followed a few fitnessy people on Instagram, and I just thought to myself, I was like, right, I am going to start looking after my body. I got a female PT. I obviously read The Secret. I started a journal. I started looking up every single angel number that I saw and what does it mean. And I decided that I was like, right, I'm going to start looking after myself now. And I'm going to really turn my life around, because there was a point where I didn't want to be here anymore. And I was sat at my desk at work, and at the end of the day, I feel really emotional. At the end of the day, I said goodbye to everyone, and I just thought, I'm not gonna like be here tomorrow, because I didn't want to be here anymore, and that's how bad it was. And I was thinking, oh, you've all said to me like, see you tomorrow, and I'm thinking, I'm not going to be here tomorrow,
Mm.
because I didn't want to be here anymore. And then I was like, no, this is enough now. I need to act like I need to start living my life, and I need to stop sitting in this place where other people have hurt me so much that I'm like hurting myself. So I started getting home from work, pushing all my furniture out of the way in my little apartment, and filming home workouts and posting them on Instagram. And I started like using resistance bands and just sharing little workouts. I look back at them now and I didn't know what I was doing. but I started like making friends online that were also like starting to look after themselves, and then I started sharing my journey, and that's kind of how it's grown to where it is now.
Right. So I'm so grateful that you've shared this with us, and I'm so sorry that you've gone through it. I believe it's like terrible to feel that way at any point, and because of any problem or anything that we go through. And you are so incredibly strong that you've been able to get out of it all by yourself, and you're just like inspiration to so many of us. So I'm really grateful that you've shared this with us. And
Thank you.
um, I have so many questions out of that.
Well,
Um, so, when you were describing your journey, have you ever found it difficult to explain to either your friends, your family, what you are going through, or was it kind of easy for them to understand? Because I feel like a lot of time when we are going through something, and sometimes we don't really understand it ourselves, what's going on, why we keep going back to some things that are hurting us. Did you struggle with maybe like explaining to others why certain things or certain things that they say are not good for you, and how did you manage to explain that to other people?
I think that it's really hard to explain to other people why you're doing something, or when you don't know why you're doing it, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. So for a large proportion of me having my eating disorder, I didn't know why I didn't want to eat. I don't know why I was doing it to myself. I hadn't really taken the time to consider why I was even doing those things. So how could I explain it to someone else? If
Right.
you're doing something like you've got an eating disorder or an addiction, or you're just not a very nice person, you normally can't explain to someone else why you are doing that if you
Right.
don't know yourself. So I think my biggest piece of advice would be, do the work, do the self work, because then you are going to be able to articulate why you did that. You're going to be able to kind of work through why you acted that way, and give yourself some answers in order to be able to explain it to somebody else. And even the same now in my romantic relationship, I've got a really healthy relationship with Liam, who I'm with. And even from the day that I met him till now, 3 years on, we are still constantly working on our ability to articulate how we feel, why we feel that way to each other all the time. And
Right.
it's such an important thing, whether you have an eating disorder or not, wherever you are in life, your ability to be self-aware of yourself and how you feel, and then also be able to articulate that to somebody else, is how you are going to build really strong relationships and actually be able to maintain them.
Right.
Because even outside of having an eating disorder, if you enter into a relationship with anybody, it's so easy to say they were the problem, that's why it didn't work out. Um, because of course it is, because why would you say that you're the problem?
Right.
And like, don't get me wrong, I've been with unhealthy people, but I can now look back and realize that I was actually an unhealthy person as well.
Right.
So I think even your relationships with parents, siblings, friends, partners, just do the self work to understand how your brain works and how you react in certain situations, how you cope with certain things that are going on in life, um, and then how you actually let people around you know how you're feeling and why you're feeling that way. Um,
Right.
yeah, that's kind of a long answer, but I
No.
just feel like that's the only way I can say it.
No, it makes perfect sense, and I also agree that I feel sometimes like the work that we need to do on ourselves is kind of like another full time job that we have to do, and then we have to balance it out with other people who also feel a certain way, and they are going through something that we don't really know or understand that well, and it's sometimes difficult to get the both sides on the same page and understanding what they're going through. So yeah, I totally agree with that. And when you mentioned that you around the age of 23 you started to sharing your journey, I believe, with on people on social media, did that help you in a way, like you've said, maybe to connect with other people who were going through something similar, or what brought you to the idea of sharing what you're going through with other people?
I don't really know. I think um, I I think a big part of it was, even from the beginning, I wanted to do something else. I didn't want to be carrying on working in an office. So even from the beginning, I thought, oh, maybe I'll do like a PT course and I'll
Hmm.
start PTing, or maybe I kind of was thinking about going into a completely different sector in work. So I just saw obviously it was kind of the time where other people were creating businesses from posting online. So part of it was kind of validating to speak about something that I was sort of ashamed of, but
Hmm.
other people were not celebrating it, but other people were really resonating with it.
Hmm.
So it was kind of giving me that accountability, because I was sharing like the meals that I was having, and I was kind of sharing the workouts that I was doing. It was a bit of accountability. It was sort of like building a bit of a community. Even though I had my real life friends, it was kind of nice to be connecting with people that were also feeling the same way I was feeling. But I also did do it definitely from a point of wanting to kind of make it my job as well.
Right. Yeah, and I believe that it's actually really great that you started sharing it, because I believe that so many people can relate to what you are going through. And like you've said, let other people know that there's nothing we need to feel ashamed of because we are dealing or we were dealing with an eating disorder. And I believe that's also always important to share with others. So when you were mentioning your recovery journey, what would you say were some of the things that really helped you to, I would say, like, maintain like a healthy body image, but also really remind yourself that you are more than the eating disorder, and that you have the power to overcome it. May I say that?
Yeah. I think that when I was younger, and this is quite common when you are younger, not that I'm not young now, but I feel like when I was younger than I am now, you don't have a lot of respect for your body, I don't think.
Mm,
You sort of have been a child, and then you've come into this like grown up body that you're not sure about, and you're
mhm,
kind of looking at everyone else's body. And you I definitely found that when everyone was sort of becoming like sexually active, I just sort of didn't have this huge amount of respect for myself. Not
mhm,
saying that I was with a lot of people, but like I never took the time to really consider what my body does for me, and how important my body is, and how it is my home throughout
mhm,
life. And one of the big things that really helped me recover was really breaking it down. Like, my arms allow me to hug the people that I love. I'm so privileged that I have my sight and I can hear my friends' voices and laughter, and like every part of my body is allowing me to be on this planet in this atmosphere. And I can get myself out of bed every morning, and my legs work, like just gratitude for every single part of my body. And then even deeper than that, I would really think about how when I eat food, my body knows what to do. It literally knows how to process that food in, turn it into the nutrition that I need for all the cogs to work in my body. And it knows what to get rid of, which is my digestive system, which when I was unwell was just non-existent. Which
Mm-hmm.
is, when I think about it, that, going to the toilet regularly, which is what I say to my clients, is a real sign of health.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wasn't bothered. In fact, if anything, I just thought, oh, my body's not doing that. That's great, because that's kind of like a validation that I'm not eating a lot.
Right.
Whereas
Yeah.
now, I'm like, you know, my digestive system working regularly, I celebrate that, because I think, yes, I'm looking after my body. And
Right.
I kind of view my body so differently now, and really celebrate everything that it does for me. And when I read, I think it might have been, I'll have to remember which book it was that I read, but it basically said, I think it was You Are a Badass, but I can't remember who wrote that. You should say thank you 30 times before you've even got downstairs in the morning. And that was a really good thing for me to read, because you should be really checking in with yourself about all the things that you're thankful for. And if you can't find 30 things to be thankful for before you get downstairs, then you need to try a little bit harder, because we definitely live in a society where we are so privileged. I can get myself out of bed. I can do everything that I need to do for myself. I can take myself downstairs. I've got food in the fridge. Not only that, I can leave the house safely. I can go to a gym. I can work out. I can get myself home. Like, I live in a very safe country. I've got, food on the table. I've got water in the taps. I think sometimes when you have an eating disorder, you become very, very, very selfish,
Mm-hmm.
very self absorbed. You're looking very much like here, and you're not looking out, up, around. You kind of need to become more grateful and less self consumed. And I know that I was extremely, extremely selfish. And I completely misunderstood the purpose of life, because I was not living. And I'm not being horrible to anyone, but I can say it about myself, because I know that that's what I was doing.
No, I think it makes perfect sense because it is really about the eating disorder is really about like being really self-centered and like over analyzing everything about yourself, about your body, and like pretty much like taking uh, not looking at yourself as a whole, but really nitpicking every single part of you. Like, my arms are too big or my thighs are too big. And like, not seeing yourself like the whole package, that you're also an amazing person and not just like this body part not being perfect. And that's actually really amazing that you've been able to turn this around and look at things like, okay, but I have like these legs that allow me to walk wherever I want and need. And that's, I believe, really amazing to do, and I believe it can help to try look at things from this perspective for sure. Yeah.
Every single thought that I have that's not very nice, say for example, the weather's really warm at the moment and I'm going to put a dress on, I might look at my legs and think, oh, they're bigger than they used to be. And then I'm like, oh, don't be silly,
Right.
And it's just, you have to change those thoughts.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, right? Okay, so Taylor, now that social media are your job, do you find it difficult in any way to balance the content and the information and the trends, like the beauty standards and all that that we currently see all over social media? Like every few months, there's a new trend that people start promoting or jumping on. How do you balance that with your job pretty much being on social media?
I think that all the work I have done on what's real, what isn't real, how I look when I take a really nice photo compared to how I look when I'm sat on the sofa with Liam in the evening, I know, even from my point of view, that I am not the same person all the time that I am when I've got a nice outfit on and I've got done my makeup. And that's okay. And I also know that for the people that I follow as well, everybody is just a human being. And even celebrities, what you see, I'm not saying that's not what they look like, because that is what they look like when that photo is taken, but it probably isn't what they look like when they're sat on the sofa of an evening. So
Right.
I think when you start to like make people real and realize that they are a real person, it's a lot easier to not compare yourself to the best version of them, because you have a best version of yourself as well, and you're
Right.
probably not that best person. Well, you are the best person, but you're probably not dolled up when
Mm-hmm.
you're looking at that content. Um, and I think also it's just so easy to, when you're scrolling on social media, you're seeing 25 people on holiday,
Right.
or and you're seeing all these people all at once who have bought a new house or had a baby or gone on holiday, and you're overloaded with everyone sort of seems to be doing all of it at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not real, and
Mm-hmm.
you're not meant to, as a human, have access to that much information. Even like way back in the day, we lived in our little villages. We didn't know what was going on in the next village unless you got a letter, or someone came by foot.
Right.
You just knew what was going on in your little group. And now we know what is going on in the whole entire world. And of course, it's important to be up to date on what's going on in the world, because you can't be ignorant to it. But you also do need to realize that our brains are not made to hold that much information. And I do think that's where a lot of comparison, a lot of anxiety, a lot of mental health disorders do come from, because we're seeing and knowing way too much. So I definitely am really mindful about who I follow, what kind of subliminal messaging I'm getting from those accounts. Like, majority of my feed on Instagram is horoscopes, positive affirmations, um, like spiritual accounts that share literally little posts that are like, today's going to be the best day ever. And I just think that that is such a more positive thing to be seeing on my feed than every single person that's ever been on Love Island. Again, not putting those people down, but what am I actually gaining from that?
Right.
So yeah, I think I'm just very mindful about who I follow, what I subliminally absorb. Also, what kind of person do I want to be? I want to be the sort of person that has really good friends in real life, that we do wholesome things together. I also want to be a person that's really comfortable in their body, and I don't want to look back on my life and think, oh, I didn't run on the beach because I thought my tummy was too round, or I
Mm.
didn't play in the pool with my boyfriend because I was self-conscious. Like, there is absolutely no way on this planet that the person you're in a relationship with is looking at your body and thinking anything other than the fact, like, she's in a bikini. Like, boys don't, and girls, whoever you're in a relationship with, they are not looking at your body thinking, yeah, her tummy's looking a little round today. They're thinking, she's in a bikini. So I think we need to maybe just take a step back and think, I would never turn up to lunch with my friend and think, oh my gosh, her arms look bigger today than they did last week. Why would I sit there and think that? So they're never ever going to think that. You would not sit down with your friend and they wouldn't look at you and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe you wore a strap top. You can't wear a strap top with those arms. So why do we think about it ourselves? So yeah,
Right.
just follow people that make you feel good about yourself. mute, even if you don't want to have the drama of unfollowing someone, you literally can just mute them on Instagram if it compromises your mental health, and just be aware of how much you're absorbing online when you're scrolling, because it can make you feel rubbish about yourself.
Right. Yeah, I believe I agree with everything that you've said. And I really love your point of view on things that, again, we are super over analyzing every part of ourselves. And we wouldn't do that to a friend or to our loved one or anyone, but we somehow do it to ourselves. And also, as you've mentioned, that now we are consuming information from all over the world. We are also comparing ourselves to everyone in this world, which is something we wouldn't do in our like real life. We compare ourselves to people we know, maybe, but not to a total stranger somewhere on the other side of the world. And again, I agree that we have to be mindful of who we follow and what information we kind of let get to us. And if we don't feel comfortable with following certain people or consuming certain content, then our mental health should always come first in that sense, for sure. And I would also like to ask you about your relationship with exercise, because, like you've mentioned, you've been sharing, or even when you started, you were sharing some like exercise content and that. And I believe that for a lot of people who either struggled or are struggling with an eating disorder, finding balance with exercise is also very difficult and important because, as you know, sometimes people use exercise another tool how to punish themselves or how to kind of outdo, I don't know, a binge or anything like that. How was your journey with exercise been like? Was it a rocky journey or was it okay? And what kind of helped you on that journey?
So in the beginning, when I first started exercising, I wasn't eating a lot, and I found myself really, yeah, not in the best place because I was burning lots of energy, and then I was staying hungry and not fueling my body. So then again, I had a word with myself and I was like, right, now we need to eat a bit more because you're burning more energy. And I wanted more energy for my workouts. I wanted to feel strong and I wanted to really see the benefits of all the workouts that I was doing. And in order to see those benefits, I needed to put fuel in my body. And I also learned about my BMR, which is your base metabolic rate. And you can work out online. You basically just put in your gender, age, height, activity level, and it will tell you how much energy you need to basically stay exactly where you are and maintain your body weight. And that really helped me because I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know that. For some reason, I just thought you start at zero and then any calories that I had were a surplus, were a
Right.
plus. But my body, of course, your body can't survive on zero. So there is a certain amount of calories, energy, whatever you want to call it, that your body needs just to maintain its weight. And then the more exercise that you do, that number becomes more. Because if your base of calories is, say, 1,500 and you do a big workout, you're then going to maybe need to eat 1,800 just to maintain your weight. And that was like, whoa, to me, because I had been in this mindset that I was like starting at zero and anything I ate was weight gain. And then I also find with a lot of clients that they are under eating so much below what their body needs to just stay the same that they're actually really puffy and bloated and your hormones are all off balance and you can't lose weight because you're in such a deficit of energy. So a lot of clients that come to me with eating disorders, we bring their food up and then they actually, their body sort of relaxes and then they start going to the toilet regularly and they're not bloated and then their stomach's not hard and sore. So yeah, there's all these things that I was starting to sort of realise, and that really helped me learn that I need to eat. But then in terms of exercise, I feel like I've really like gone in waves with it. I
Right.
was really, really, really on the gym. I was going 6 times a week and I was there at 6 a.m. because I had an office job. Then lockdown hit and I was doing more home workouts again. Then the gyms opened and I was going again 5 times a week. Even up until I met Liam, I was going about 5 times a week. And that was 3 years ago. And now I feel like I go to yoga twice a week, and I'm just about to start Pilates as well, which I'm really looking forward to. And the gym, sometimes I go twice a week, sometimes I don't go at all. So I feel like the more comfortable I've become in myself, in my body, with nutrition, my movement sort of comes in seasons, I think. And I've noticed that about a lot of people that I know in the fitness industry who have come from a very regimented 5-6 days a week, constantly in the gym. These are the workouts I do. For a little while, when I stopped doing that, I stopped feeling like that was right for me. I thought, oh no, I've let myself go. I'm not disciplined anymore. I'm not motivated anymore. But then I sort of had a word with myself. I'm always having a word with myself.
I
And
love
then I
that.
realised I'm always having a word with myself. But like I always ask myself questions. I'm like, why did you think that you're not disciplined anymore? Why do you think you're not motivated? But what it actually came down to is that version of me didn't exist anymore. I'm a new version of myself, and I've got new goals in my life, and I'm going for a bit of a slower season, and I want to be more in my feminine energy, and I just want to move a bit differently, and I want to really connect with my body in a different way. And that's fine too. So yeah, that's kind of the journey I've been on with my fitness.
Yeah, I love that because it comes to show that you kind of are open to the journey progressing and being aligned with your needs and not being like obsessive about exercise and feeling like you have to move your body in order to kind of like allow yourself to eat or to be at peace, because movement, like there are so many forms of movement, and like yeah, maybe gym worked for you or for me or for anyone at some point, but maybe now we've moved and changed in a lot of ways and we need something else in our lives. And again, I think that is beautiful to showcase that this is also possible and it's part of the process, and we shouldn't be really focused on maybe few years ago this was something we were doing and now we are not doing it again. So like you've mentioned, it doesn't mean we're not disciplined or that we let ourselves go or anything like that. We're just looking for different ways how to move our bodies in a way that works for us, and I think that's really beautiful. And you already kind of touched on that, mentioning your clients. I would like to talk and learn a little bit more about your Ignite with Taylor app and program. Would you mind telling us a little bit more about what motivated you to start it, what it is all about, and all of that?
Yeah, of course. So I really wanted to create a business off of Instagram, because as we know, social media, it's probably always going to be there, but if it disappeared tomorrow, I just wanted to have something that was very much mine and that
Right.
I was much more connected on a one-to-one with people. Um, and I quite often, like, people might not know this, but if there's ever anyone that messages me who's struggling with an eating disorder, which I do often get messages, I will just say, do you want a phone call? And I will often, like, I've got a couple of girls that are really doing their best to recover at the moment, that I'll just sometimes have a little catch up phone call with them and kind of talk to them about the things that we've talked about today. It's not really anything to do with my business. It's kind of aside from that. I don't think that they're at a place where they're ready to do the one-to-one coaching. They're still very much in their recovery, so it's like baby steps, and I just have kind of built like a bit of a, what would you call it if you were, I don't know, like a mentor, like just a
Mm-hmm.
bit of a like big sister type relationship with them, where we just have phone calls and I give them affirmations and I just talk through how they're feeling and kind of like the things that we've talked about today, which I really love. And I wouldn't think that it would be very responsible of me to just sell them my coaching plan when I know that they're still not in a place where that would necessarily be very healthy for them. So we
Mm-hmm.
just sort of have phone calls, and I really love doing that because I wish I had had someone to say the things that I say to them when I needed it
Mm-hmm.
then. So it's kind of karmically quite good for me as well when I have those conversations because it reaffirms it to me.
Right.
But then aside from that, with my actual business, I have a Ignite with Taylor app, where I do my one-to-one coaching. So there's all different types of movement on there. We've actually got a resident Pilates and yoga teacher, Amara, and she creates all those videos for us and I upload them onto there. But I've also got home workouts, gym workouts, loads of recipes. I'm actually vegan, but there's vegan and normal meat recipes on there. And I do check-ins and voice notes and videos and pictures, and it's just like having me in your pocket really to help with nutrition training. Some people on there just do the nutrition because they don't want to do the workouts, or maybe I've got a client that dances. Yeah, so it's just completely dependent on what the person's goals are, but I really enjoy doing that.
Yeah, I love that. I love the first part also when you mentioned that you've been like kind of in touch with girls that are going through something but they don't feel ready to maybe have a coach or commit to a recovery maybe at that point. But I really love that you're helping those girls as well. And also what we say, what are mostly people reach out to you about? Is it the recovery, or maybe like finding or having trouble to find peace with their body image, or is it all combined, all people with different problems coming to the Ignite with Taylor program?
Yeah, all kinds of things. A lot of it is disordered eating. Um, and that can be on so many different levels. I think people often think that an eating disorder is someone who is underweight, but you can very much have an eating disorder and be overweight. It just depends what kind of eating disorder you're struggling with, because if you're struggling with an eating disorder, you often will restrict and binge. And like I said before, when you're under eating for so long, when you do put food into your body is in survival mode and it wants to keep you alive. Like, no matter what you do to your body's sole purpose is to keep you alive, to keep you are
Hmm.
hardwired to stay out of danger, to not die, and to survive. So when you do put that food in, your body's like, don't worry, I'll store that for us. Like, we need that energy. And then you might find that you've maybe put on a bit of body fat because you're restricting so much, and then you say to your body, I hate you, why have you done that? Restrict more, and your body's like, I'm just trying to keep you alive, don't worry, I'll sort this, don't worry, I'll sort that. Even when you go to
Right.
sleep at night, your body is literally like, I'll keep you alive, I'll keep you alive. And another way that I explain it to girls is, if you were in a relationship with yourself and every single thing that you tried to do to be nice, I'll do that for you. Oh, don't worry about that. I'll sort that. Oh, I'll keep you safe. I'll keep you safe. And then this person was shouting at you like, no, you're disgusting. I hate
Mm.
you. Why are you doing that for me? And that is literally what you're doing with yourself. And that was a bit of a wake up call for a couple of the girls that I said it to, because they were
Right.
like, oh, I never thought of it like that. I'm so angry with my body that it keeps doing this to me. And all it's trying to do is literally keep me alive. So yeah, I think that's another big thing to think about as well.
And I was just wondering, because you've mentioned that um, that sometimes, like, yeah, people often think that when you have an eating disorder, you have to be overweight. What are some of the, you would say, like the biggest misconceptions that you meet with when you are discussing that with clients, or from your experience, what are some of the biggest misconceptions related to eating disorder that you are working a lot with people?
I think that people feel embarrassed to say that they have an eating disorder if they're not underweight. And I think that
Right.
people feel like they have to be extremely thin to even say they've got an eating disorder, because there's such a like stigma around it. Whereas if you're not super, super, super thin and you say, oh, I'm really struggling, I've got an eating disorder, that you feel like someone might say to you, eating disorder, you're not thin.
Right.
And that's really bad, because if you struggle with your relationship with food, if you find yourself binging, restricting, I'm just going to say that's not normal. And I always thought, because there's all this language around food where it's like, oh, once I open the biscuits, I can't stop.
Mm-hmm.
That is a disordered relationship with food, but it's become really normal for people to talk about food like that. And I think we
Right.
have a responsibility as well to stop oppressing women. Stop going to a food table and saying, oh, I won't have that, I'm being good. What do you mean you're being good?
Mm-hmm.
What does that
Right.
even mean? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I'll just have one because I'm watching my figure or whatever. Like, it's really oppressing to use that language, and I think it happens a lot in an office environment. Oh, I'm being good at the moment. And I just think we need to stop using that language around food and stop making women believe that to be beautiful, you have to be smaller and thinner,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to not eat those bad things. Like, no food is bad. Nothing is wrong with a biscuit. Nothing's wrong with some crisps. You literally have your BMR and whatever energy you need on top of that for whatever your goals are. You could literally, if my BMR was 1,500 calories, I could eat 1,500 calories of cake. My weight would not change because it's just energy in, energy out. And I think when you explain that to the people that come to me, obviously don't just eat cake because it's not, there are other things that you need in food.
Right.
You do need nutrition, but what I teach my clients is, okay, this is the amount of calories that you've got, amount of energy that we've got for you to have. So let's put a biscuit and a cup of tea in. A lot of my clients, their afternoon snack is a cup of tea and a biscuit. Nothing bad's going to happen. It's literally, it's within your food allowance. And every single one of my clients has sweet stuff, savory stuff, a mixture of food that might be considered bad and good. Because the worst thing that you can do if you have a disordered relationship with food is join with a coach where you're like, I'm eating healthy, I'm eating clean. What is
Mm-hmm.
clean food? I don't know. And I'm eating good and cutting everything out because life is for living. Food is a love language. In every culture, we cook for each other, we share food, we enjoy food. It's good, it's tasty, it's nice. So I think
Right.
it's really important that I teach women how to include those foods within your diet in a healthy, sustainable way and stop making that food bad, because that is when the binging comes in. And it's like the scarcity mindset of, okay, I've got a packet of biscuits and I feel really bad about, even if I have one, then the packet's going to be open in the cupboard, so I must just eat them all now and then they'll be
Right.
gone. But then you feel guilty and then spirals. So yeah, that's kind of one of the big things that I really pride myself on, is including those foods in a really sustainable way that stops making them so scary.
Right. I 100% agree with that because I believe that when we label food as good and bad, then we always will be in the mindset of we cannot eat the bad food. And when we eat it, then we are bad and we feel bad. And like getting rid of that mindset, I believe, is very important. And also, when you mention The Office, I can agree with that because I had a recent experience because I have a corporate job myself. And a lot of times when I'm with my colleagues and we go for a lunch, I notice that they tend to comment on like the plates of other people, including mine. And I find it really, really uncomfortable. Do you have any tips on how people who have like either been through an eating disorder or don't feel like super strong maybe at that moment, any tips how to deal with those comments?
That's why you have your affirmations. So in that situation, if you don't feel comfortable, now I'm at a point where I'd feel comfortable to kind of say to that person, oh, why do you feel like that about this food? You know, ask, why do you feel like that? It's not
Mm.
it's not a me problem, it's a you problem. Obviously I wouldn't say
Hmm.
that, it's a you problem. But like in my head, I say to myself, okay, that's not a me problem. What they have just said there is a reflection of how they feel, and in that sense, they are struggling with their relationship with food, and it's not an attack on me. And I think that the best thing you can do in that situation is have your affirmations ready. And one affirmation for me would be like, let me think of one. I deserve to enjoy this meal. Nothing bad is going to happen to me. This meal it's nutritious, it's going to fuel my body for the afternoon so that I can go back to work with energy. Like, just really positive things that you can say to yourself. I'm not overindulging, I'm looking after myself. And that would sort of be the base level that I would say. Just like say your affirmations to yourself and give yourself permission to enjoy that food despite what that person has said, because ultimately, if you let that person get in your head and you do punish yourself, then you're falling into that trap again, which I was talking about earlier, which is, why should I punish myself because of what somebody else has said or done? I get to decide how other people make me feel, and I'm not going to turn on myself, because my whole recovery is about looking after myself, loving myself, putting my arm around myself and saying to myself, don't let them speak to you like that.
Mm.
Even to a point where in the past I have gone into the toilet of a restaurant, stood in the mirror, wrapped my arms around myself and looked at myself and said, it's all right. You go and, like, you're worthy of enjoying that meal. You go back to the table and you have a nice time, like the same you would to your friend or your sister. You have to do it for yourself, because if you allow the other people to decide how you're going to punish yourself or treat yourself, you won't ever move forward. So
Right.
that's my, I think it's like, yeah, some people might not feel comfortable to go and give themselves a hug, but I've done it so many times and it actually is fantastic.
No, I love it. I love it. It's perfect. Yeah, and I totally agree that ultimately we have to take care of ourselves and not let other people dictate what we eat and how we feel around food, because they don't know what our journey has been like. I don't know what their journey has been like, so I'm not commenting on their food choices, but some people are not like that, unfortunately. So yeah, we have to prepare for those things, I believe.
No, I was just saying, you have to protect yourself, and then that is your growth. That is
Right.
your recovery every time you do that.
Right. Right. Awesome, Taylor. I really loved talking to you today. I was wondering what's coming next for Ignite with Taylor. Anything excited that is coming up that you would like to share? And also, a second thing, where can people reach out to you and get in touch with you?
So mostly I use my Instagram, which is at trainwith.taylor.
Hmm.
But I am also on YouTube as well, which I'm trying to be a bit better with. But I've got some good older videos on there as well. I actually did a recovery video on YouTube, so that's there. And to be honest, that's where I get most of my messages come from, people who have watched that.
Hmm.
Um, and then with Ignite, there's nothing big coming at the moment. We're just maintaining and continuing to do what we're doing. But yeah, it's available on the App Store and the Google Play Store as Ignite with Taylor.
Perfect. I'll make sure to include everything in the show notes so people can get to it as quickly as possible. I love talking to you today. It was really amazing to meet and to discuss all of these topics. And thank you so much for joining today. And I wish you the best, and also the best to the Ignite with Taylor app. And thank you so much for doing what you're doing, because you're helping so many people out there. And that's amazing.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you all so much for joining and listening today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, make sure to subscribe to the Binge on Self Love podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube so you don't miss any future episodes. I'll be back next week with another episode. And until then, take care and talk to you soon. Bye.